Force tired.
The Force is what gives the Jedi his power.
Why is the Force connecting us?
I am a Jedi. Always do, there are.
We're a dyad in the Force.
Well, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Force Diet Podcast. This is episode number 60. Wherever, whenever, and however you may be listening, we are honored that you've joined us. On tonight's episode, we've finally reached the end of Ahsoka season or series 1 with episode 8 dropping last week. A lot of questions, not so many answers. So a lot of good stuff to discuss tonight. So I'm your host, Obi Sean, joined as always by my co-host with the most, Jedi John. How you doing, buddy?
Hello. We're here. It's done. It is done.
It is finished.
Man,
Perhaps.
I'm excited. I'm excited to jump in, but yeah, I know we got some other stuff, but man, it's gonna be good.
It should be fun, and the biggest question to come out of all of it is, will we actually get more, or are we gonna get like
More.
really badly cliffhangered? I don't know. I guess we'll talk more about
Literally
that.
off a cliff. Literally off a cliff.
Just extend your pointer finger out towards the camera, and that's really all there is. Or I guess it was a hand. Was he point? It was a point or a hand.
I actually think it.
He was like a blackjack dealer, tapping out, and then was like,
Yeah,
"There you
like-
go."
Clean hands out.
Nothing here.
Yeah, I know it wasn't two hands out. I know that.
No.
So it wasn't.
And it wasn't touchdown Jesus to make the
Got the
necessary Sunday
whole world
football puns.
in my hands. It's got the whole wide world.
In my hands. Very good. Well done. Good reference.
You're welcome.
So yeah, episode 8. I'll just kind of like dive right in. We just to kind of give the listeners a heads up. We did skip technically episode 7. We talked about it briefly at Cape Con.
We did have somebody in the room that had not seen it yet, though, so we couldn't really dive straight in.
Yeah. Which that was a blast. I had a really good time with that. Doing our first live stream.
It was fun at Cape Con.
Yeah. And I've seen a lot of the pictures start to come out now from the show, and I have to say the ones that they picked of us, they show our best sides.
I figured they would. Of course they did.
Yeah, I think one, my eyes are closed. One, your turn like sideways. Another one,
I'm talking to you.
that is probably no. You were looking because your mouth was not in any sort of open position. But then the other one is of me just kind of like staring blankly forward, like mid speech, I guess. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I know we smiled at least once during that
Honestly,
opening.
we probably should they should have just got our picture before we started. That's probably good feedback for them. Like, can we just get like a photo prior to starting? That way we can have like one, like we know it's going to be good.
Yeah.
The action shots of podcasting just don't really flatter anyone, I don't think. So.
Everyone's sitting there at the sitting there at a table talking into microphones. You're not going to get the most appealing photos in that instance.
Yeah, just...
So we did talk briefly about episode 7 there, and then dove into kind of our main topic. So we're not really going to dive into episode 7 here. There were some cool bits. Obviously, getting the 3PO cameo, I guess, was probably the highlight aside from that end action sequence. So we're not going to spend as much time on that because that is now 2.5 weeks old. And so with that, we'll just kind of go into episode 8, and then we'll close the episode off towards the end, talk about the season as a whole. So your first thoughts coming out of episode 8. I know you sent the text to Keith and I.
Yeah, I sent it out. You guys know my thoughts. Yes, you already know them.
Let the listeners know what your thoughts were.
Yeah, I couldn't decide if I was really happy or really, really mad. I just don't. I don't know. I don't know. I still kind of don't know, but I'm at ease with it. Like, it was a finale of a season. of TV.
Uh-huh.
Like I don't really know how else to put it. I mean, I think the biggest thing for me is like I know there's more something coming
Mhm.
as far as story, whether that be movie first or show season 2. But there's more to come, and I think that's the important thing that I had to remember, that they had to set up other stuff. Like I was totally right about some of the stuff. Like,
Mhm.
I think previously on the cast, I told you like Thrawn has to win. Like Thrawn has to win this season technically. Like he has to get away into the next galaxy. Well, guess what? He did.
Yeah.
How he did it or who he did it with, didn't really get that right. Partially right, I suppose. But yeah, uh, but overall, like I'm overall happy with it. I just wish they would have added on 20 or 30 more minutes. I think that's really what it comes down to.
So you think that what you feel you were missing would have been completely filled in with an extra 20 minutes?
No, no, just it would have been more filled in to give me a little more closure on certain items.
Well, my biggest question is, so I had a lot of questions, and I'm sure a lot of people who watch this, some are going to be over the moon ecstatic, some are going to be super disappointed, and then I think most people are going to kind of be in that middle ground where you enjoyed bits of it, and then you're like, where's the like you feel like it's incomplete. It is clearly incomplete, and the biggest question mark is, are we going to actually get that closure? Because while there's talk of season 2, that hasn't been greenlit yet. The Mando movie, which everyone seems to be kind of discussing as a reasonable place to hash out some of these things, that's not coming out for multiple years at this point. And so, we spend the better part of the whole season, and maybe I should have saved this till the season wrap, but whatever, following Baylan and Shin, and then the entire finale, we get them for 45 seconds, 45 seconds
Total.
to a minute, right? And granted, half of that time is on something that's epic, and we'll talk about it, but I feel like, and I realize it's Ahsoka's show, and so we've griped about the main character not being in, their actual show. So she was present.
You can't make everybody happy, Sean. I already told you.
I know.
Can't make everybody happy.
But I feel like there were a number of questions that I felt could be answered in season 1, that didn't really get there. And I don't know. I just feel like there's a hole, and I just need more Ahsoka to fill it.
Yeah, there is. I have a hole in my heart. I need more.
So yeah, so we both got the Thrawn has to win, right? And that was like, I'm pretty sure everyone who understands his role in helping to found the First Order pretty much knew he had to get away. I will say that I was not expecting. Well, let's start at the beginning with Ezra rebuilding his lightsaber, or rebuilding a lightsaber. So good.
So cool.
So good.
Also, does Ahsoka and Huyang just have random kyber crystals hanging out on the ship? The answer is probably yes.
100%. Oh, I mean, they have so many lightsabers that they've collected. We actually talked about that, I think, during our episode 1 discussion where they had
all the hilts.
And you had seen it. I missed it. So there's no doubt that those would have had crystals in them.
Yeah.
Also, what?
You're good. Nothing. I was just thinking, like in my head, like Ahsoka's still using white blades that she bled from. Like, why did she not want to go with blue or green or something else? But I don't know.
Yeah, that is interesting that she's never changed back. But I feel like there's so much her identity now.
That's true.
And it's always said that, well, granted, she healed the blood crystals, and I don't know, I'm gonna guess that it's probably in a book somewhere, but if we ever learn whose crystals she took and healed, but
We did, Sean. We did.
No, did I miss it?
It was in Tales of the Jedi.
Oh.
She was lightsaber-less.
Oh, and she took the guy. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She took his lightsaber.
But that's
well,
only,
at least
that's only one. That's
I
only
guess
one
it
crystal.
wasn't. We didn't see it, huh?
That's only one crystal, or do you have to use 2 to get the double blades? You only got to use 1.
That is also a great question, Sean.
Because I'm pretty sure Maul only had 1. Anyways, we're getting off topic here. But
What if she halved it? Anyway.
I was going to say the Kyber crystal calls to the Jedi, right? But at least that's what the story is. But anyways, having Ezra build his saber there in a very, I'm not going to say it was like Savvy's workshop, but with all the drawers, it felt very Savvy's workshop,
Pretty sweet,
right?
Yeah, pretty cool.
But the fact that Huyang had a backup emitter shroud for Kanan that is now Ezra's is really, really cool. Like, I just loved
Chef's
that.
kiss.
It was so good.
Chef's kiss. Perfecto.
The tie back to Rebel Season 1 when Ezra picks it off Kanan and says, this feels good in my hand, right? And then he just, it was the perfect Rebels circle, as you like to say. It was just, it was so good.
George would be so proud. It's a circle.
So
it's like poetry.
The big question, well, there are many big questions, but one question I had that came out of this was in regards to Thrawn, and we can kind of talk about this as it relates to Ezra, Sabine, Ahsoka getting to, well, eventually, getting shot down, getting back to the temple, and then the fights that ensue. But is it just me? And I've seen other people talk about this, so I guess it's not just me. But I feel like I'm trying to understand Thrawn's blunders, right? Like the way that he talks about not underestimating a Jedi, right? He tells that to Morgan, right? And talks about how he had been bested by a Jedi once before and he wasn't going to make that mistake again. And then I feel like there are multiple points where during their escape plan, right? Because everything's loaded onto the ship. So they bring the hyperspace ring down. And I guess the reason for that is because there's not enough power in the ship. So I can kind of buy that.
Probably not, yeah.
But I feel like the number of strategic blunders he makes over the course of the last episode and a half is kind of uncharacteristic. And I don't know if it's the fact that he's been gone so long that he's rusty, or
is he out of practice?
I mean, obviously he would be. It was one of those things where I was expecting this this military strategist, and I feel like there were a number of points where, and obviously it's the writing, it's the plot, and it has to do certain things.
Right.
I feel like it kind of missed the mark in.
What would you call a blunder? Like what were his blunders? Are you seeing was it his blunders, or was it for instance, Baylan didn't show up to the last fight in the episode, in episode 7, and he's like, "We are short a mercenary." That's not his fault. That's an outside variable that he did not account for. That he would have, except that he was trusting his mercenaries would hold true to what they were there for, or what he thought they were there for.
Right, and that's fair. Well, so you have him sending 2 squads of troops last episode, or 7. It was in 7, because they couldn't afford to lose any more troops. But I feel like if he was gonna, this is going back to episode 7, right? So if he's gonna confront them in an open field, why do you not send air support there, right? So they send.
Oh yeah, I mean,
so that's because he's very
the classic. Why didn't you send TIE fighters just to blow them all up?
Right. And you get it because obviously they get the 2 TIE fighters to shoot down the shuttle, or try to shoot down the shuttle. Which there.
I mean, Sean, you know how many times I've asked questions on why didn't they use what they had resource wise to, win the whatever it was. And this has been a trope in many Disney Plus shows.
That would be a blunder to me, right? Like the fact that you are willing to, again, understandably, send TIE fighters to shoot down a ship makes sense. I buy that. But that you have two, because you don't know that Ahsoka's coming or there or whatever.
Right.
And Huyang's being pursued the entire time, right? By the call them foot soldiers, right? So I guess he did send aircraft or ships were sent, but you have no air support for the ground assault. So anyways, I would call that a blunder. And the reluctancy to, I don't know. Again, it's getting nitpicky. It just felt off. Like without sounding too whiny about things, the portrayal as it relates to that specific aspect or person, not like trait, just felt off a little bit.
I'll agree with you there. I mean, but it just goes back to the same thing that I complain about every time. You know, I even go back to like every time Sabine didn't pull out her freaking lightsaber to take care of business right away, like, or Mando and Boba, you have jetpacks on your body. Take care of it. You know, like it just goes back to they had to write the story in some way that they couldn't couldn't be perfect, so to speak.
True.
So, yeah, I don't think I'm that upset about the blunders, so to speak, as more of I think there's another piece that he's relying on the Great Mothers for, that I don't think he knows how to balance them. Like, I think because they are obviously in an agreement that he knows is probably more than fragile at best. And I think he's still off. I think he's off because of that, because he's not used to having to be in some kind of real shaky alliance.
He doesn't have control. He doesn't have the true control of it.
Right. Because they do. They realistically do. And they're telling him what's in the thread, so to speak. So he's listening a lot for what needs to happen versus what he wants to do.
Well, and it's very similar to so there's the Shakespeare play Macbeth, right? That has the three witches that tell the future for the king, and then the king makes all these decisions because he knows kind of the outcome, right? And to your point, I guess that makes a lot of sense if that is indeed the case here, which we've already discussed a lot of the parallels, that the witches represent. So yeah, if he's already beholden to an outcome, like he's seen the future, so to speak, then maybe that does explain some of his his questionable decisions. So we get the Ahsoka, Sabine, Ezra getting back to the temple, and we are graced finally. Well, not just with all three of them fighting together, which was excellent, but we then get the reanimated versions of them, which was, I thought that was cool. I don't know, what did you think about the finally getting the zombie stormtroopers?
It was good.
You didn't like it, did you?
I enjoyed. So here's the thing. I enjoyed them. I want Disney to pull out the stops and just have lightsabers do what they're supposed to do. Like, if you push a lightsaber into a metal door, what happens in the metal door? Like, just cuts right through it. Like, you can make whatever shape you want inside the door. You can cut out your own walkthrough if you want to. But when they hit a stormtrooper, they don't cut them in half. They don't cut their arms off. They barely touch them. And I just want lightsabers to do what lightsabers are supposed to do. And I don't think we're ever going to get it, but it is what it is.
Except in Mando, right? Which is still your favorite scene, which we talk about literally every time we reference that sort of stuff.
That's so good. It's so, and we got it with Ezra at the end of this
Yes, true.
during with the night with the dark troopers that were attacking him and Sabine, which we can talk about this again. What we'll talk about it now, obviously, but like the fact that she killed the dark trooper the same way Rey killed a
Yeah.
guard. I'm like, come on, like, did we have to do it? Like, it is what it is. But
No, that was
whatever. But then
Ben.
then
Kylo did that. Kylo was getting choked out, and then she throws him the saber, and then he pops it.
She threw it to him,
and then he pops it behind his head. How did you forget the cinematography genius from The Last Jedi?
Activated.
You love The Last Jedi.
I don't want to talk about the Praetorian Guard scene ever again.
Sorry,
I don't have to. I just mentioned it now out of necessity.
That's fair. Continue. Sorry.
But yeah, but we did get Ezra cutting off the head of a Death Trooper, which was watching his head roll. I'm like, that makes sense. Appreciate that. But yeah, no, the reanimated stormtroopers were cool. It was just the only thing I think that I had a real issue with was like some of them realized they still had blasters and could use them, and then the other ones look like true zombies, and maybe it's the level that they're dead. I'm not sure, but yeah, that was the only gripe I would have. But overall, I didn't mind it at all.
Yeah, and the whole lightsaber doing the thing that with Ezra doing that, he clearly went to zombie killing school because he knows that you need to
take the head,
remove the head.
You take the head.
Ahsoka and Sabine, not so much. But yeah, I mean the thing I enjoyed about that scene is I think it kind of validates our suspicion that they were dead the whole time. Or at least they maybe not dead, but the fact that excuse me, the fact that the dark troopers themselves are already rotten and decaying under the mask, because you can see the one that's choking out Sabine he's been dead a long time. It would be unlikely that they're the only two who have experienced this fate, and the fact that them just being reanimated would have done that, even though they weren't part of the whole ritual or what have you,
right?
Would imply that the other troopers in the group were similar in nature. But the with that scene, because leading into that, right, you had the sort of what would you call it? The initiation or indoctrination of Morgan into sort of the Night Sister hood, I guess. Sisterhood of the Traveling Witches.
Sure, the
right?
sort of tells him.
Which was a really, like, as soon as it popped on screen, I was like, oh, and then I couldn't remember why I did that. So I did have to go dig that back up. And then Keith's reference of Darth Jar Jar in the text chain, I thought that was just like a joke. And then obviously that's the episode that Talzin actually summons it on, is when Jar Jar's helping Mace rescue the Queen, which is, it all comes back to Jar Jar.
He's out there still.
What's that? Still. Who, Jar Jar?
He's out there still. Yeah.
He's pulling the strings behind the scenes. He is the one true Sith. But yeah, the zombie scene, or the zombie trooper scene, I will say the thing that I had not I guess issues the right word, is again the pacing. So you block them off, they find a way to blow the blast door like clean open, right? Make their way up the stairs. They block them again. Which I don't know. Like you had the three that came down the special corridor that jumped Ezra, which they get blocked off. I get that. So where did they come from? And like, why was there only three of them when the rest of them were all coming up the stairs? Did they have like a special, like secret passage that they got to use? I don't know. It just felt very incomplete. Like it's one of many instances that you feel like it was kind of thrown in because it was almost expected because everybody's talked about these troopers, and now we get to see them pop. And I don't know that they gave I don't know that they gave as much thought to the execution of the idea as maybe they would have liked. So, right. So they work their way up the stairs. We get the standoff between Morgan and Ahsoka while Ezra and Sabine run on. And I don't know about you. Obviously, I don't know your thoughts on this because we haven't really talked about this much since the episode came out. But I thought it was one of the better fight scenes, like choreographies for the whole series. The duel between Morgan and
it looked good.
Ahsoka. Would you agree with that?
Yep, whole thing looked good. Very happy with that scene. Her splitting one of Ahsoka's hilts, pretty sweet. Like, that's a very powerful weapon she was wielding. So it was very, very cool to just kind of watch how it played out. The rematch, the rematch of the century. But it was good to see. And we already knew Morgan was a very well-trained fighter already. Just haven't seen her with a sword yet, so it was cool to see. And Ahsoka, had to be her best to defeat her. So
I the thing I liked actually most about Morgan, I think this whole series, is that she's clearly in the like architect mode, and that she's like driving a lot of this, right? Because she's the one that brings the ring to. She hears the call. She's she thinks that she's helping. Well, she knows she's helping. In effect, probably repopulate her home planet. And so when Thrawn asks her to stay behind, you can obviously see the dejection, right? That she's not going with them, but she gives the for Dathomir instead of for the Empire sort of differentiation, because it was never about the Empire. It was always about Dathomir. But the fact that she's very, she's not very demonstrative at all during the whole series. And then finally she gets to, like, I guess in a way show off in that last scene, and obviously she gets cut down, but the training that and I can't recall the actress's name, but there's the really cool relationship between her and Bruce Lee. I think he was her godfather, I think. But in any case, right? So we've seen her fight before in Mandalorian, and it just gets ratcheted up here in that scene. And yeah, that fight choreography was excellent. And so then Ezra, Sabine trying to get on the ship. Force theme plays. We get the Rebels call back to how Ezra and Kanan used to throw each other around, which
get around.
I loved it.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. Do it again. Ezra jumps. Sabine throws him, and he makes it to the ship. So we finally, we got to see Sabine use the Force in retrieving her lightsaber, but this is something far more powerful. The ability to just shove across a great distance like that. Her being formally recognized as a Jedi now officially in Star Wars canon has a lot of people in a tizzy. And I want to get your thoughts on that scene, like that part of the scene, and then her overall sort of entrance into Jedi-dom.
It was weird. It's a weird thing. So, and you got to go back to the beginning of the season, right? Or not the beginning of the season, but I pushed through Hugh Yang here, right? Called her. I've seen a lot of, I've seen all the Jedi students of the Force. You're the worst one. Like, all of these things come through. And then this episode, Ezra is like, what happened between Sabine and Ahsoka? Like, and he's like, oh, well, Ahsoka started training her, but didn't want her to reach her full potential because she was scared of it. So Huang knows that there's more to Sabine, but is burying her during conversations with her, like emotionally, like like I'm gonna bulldoze this girl so she never reaches her potential because Ahsoka doesn't want it to happen. It was a little confusing because of that. Like I just go back to those conversations that we heard earlier this year,
Mm-hmm.
and then you've got that one where there's obviously potential there that Ahsoka didn't want to unlock because she was afraid that it could go the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then we see it this episode, like pulled the lightsaber, she pushed Ezra. Those things are tough to swallow when you've got an expert saying certain things in one part of the season and then late in the season saying the opposite. So I'm okay with Sabine being a Jedi. I don't really care about that. Like she technically is a Padawan learner already, so I don't understand why people are in a tizzy about being a Jedi in name somewhere. Because we already knew going into this season that she was the Padawan of Ahsoka.
Mm-hmm.
So that qualifies her as a Jedi already. So I'm okay with that stuff. I just think that hearing him talk to Ezra early in the episode saying she has a lot of potential, it just contradicts everything he said to Sabine directly all season long.
Yeah, and yeah, that's a fair point. It does seem counterintuitive. The thing I wonder about, because he says it in episode 2 about perhaps beginning again, even after he gives her guff. And I don't know that. So I feel like it's more a tough love angle, right? Because he's a droid, right? He has some level of personality to him, right? But he's going to have a protocol. He's not a protocol droid, but he's going to have like a way of dealing with certain things. It would have been how he would have dealt with, younglings or others in the temple, most likely too. To point out their faults directly so that they could presumably address them. And I think what we get over the course of the season with Sabine is her, and they obviously talk about unlocking or unblocking the flow, right? And she doesn't cut herself off from it like the way that, say, Luke did, right? This isn't something like that, right? But think of it almost like a kind of like a writer's block or something like that, where you've had writer's block's not the right word, but there's some sort of something prohibiting you from utilizing a talent, right? And so I think for obviously the Force, you have to be fully kind of relaxed and just kind of allow it to happen. And Sabine's been so uptight this whole season for multiple reasons. And I think Ahsoka coming back, being more calm around her, trying to let her know that, hey, the decisions you made, we've all made tough decisions, right? We've all made hard decisions. And I think it's like Anakin kind of giving Ahsoka the okay, right? Ahsoka's giving Sabine the okay, more or less. And I think it allows her to finally kind of just realize that, yeah, okay, I can do this, and to trust herself, right? I go back to the Time to Fly, where it was about trust. And I feel like she's finally able to trust herself to know that, yes, if she uses this, right, she's not going to use it the wrong way, right? Like Ahsoka fears. So I agree. I don't have a problem with her being a Jedi, in name, so to speak. A Jedi is a way of teaching. It's a way of understanding the Force. It's not like it's a form of religion. It's a form of the religion.
It's not like they didn't grant her the rank of master yet, so
True.
I think we're okay still.
True. Although I will say, if what happened at the end of the episode with her and Anakin before, or her and Ahsoka before we see Force Ghost Anakin, which was a nice touch. But it's almost implied or suggested that Sabine saw him or saw something like him, without him appearing directly to her, like she sensed him, which I would have to think that would be a significant sort of Force usage or at least attunement to be able to sense someone else's Force ghost that isn't appearing to you but is appearing to somebody else. I don't know if you caught that or if you have any thoughts
Yeah, no.
on that.
I mean, I would agree. I mean, but she did just, force push Ezra a football field. So I don't really know.
At least. So at least a football field. Yeah, so the last bit, right, with Thrawn jumping off. So you've got them hovering over Dathomir, right? And you've got the big reunion for Hera and Ezra. So which one do you want to talk about first? Probably the reunion, because that's probably the least expansive
cool.
one.
Good for them. Glad they got back together. I don't got nothing else for it. Like, I mean, there's a lot of questions there. I know, like everyone's diving into is Ezra gonna train Jason? Like, yeah, I mean, probably it would make sense, wouldn't it? So, and it would be a circle. It's just,
So I have a thought on that, actually, since we're here, since you brought that up. So we know that somewhere between now and 10 years, 12 years, something like that, Luke's got to start a new school. And we know that, he's got to get Jedi from somewhere. So I don't know that Ezra will train Jason directly. I think that Luke would use or have Ezra help as an instructor at his new school, and that Jason would train there. So, because it's, again, you don't have to show it like on screen, like it doesn't actually physically have to happen, but I think that that's the way that it's going to go. Is that, no, you don't think so?
Boo.
You don't like that? You don't like that theory?
Boo this man. Boo.
They got to get Jedi from somewhere.
I know. I just don't, if they're there, I can't put Jason and Ezra in the same place Ben Solo ends up. I can't do it. I just can't.
Why?
Because Ben destroys the temple. And if Ezra was there, there's no way Ben destroyed Ezra also, in addition to all the other Jedi.
Well, no, sorry. He doesn't have to be there when everything is destroyed, but he can go and help set it up. So, because here's the thinking, right? So now, and this is the thing you have to think about when they're constructing these timelines, right? Is that, okay, you have Ezra and you have Jason in this galaxy, along with Luke and others, most likely. You have Ahsoka and Sabine on Peridea, along with Baylan and Shin. Not to say that they're going to come back and help out, right? But where it goes back to the where are they during the sequel trilogy, right? Like if you had other Jedi somewhere, right? They would have so either they're training together off-site and they never hear about the First Order, or the rise of the Resistance or any of that sort of stuff.
Sounds sketch.
I mean, it's plausible. I mean, we're really, theorizing here, right? Or they went and they trained with Luke and then, or as part of Luke's school, and then maybe they're sent off on a mission somewhere and they just are just over here somewhere. And again, they never get back, or they die on mission somewhere, or they're there when Ben goes Kylo, and despite their best efforts, they don't, same thing goes for Grogu, right? Like, and that's the whole discussion with Grogu too. But I'm getting off topic, but the reunion was what I love that Chopper was the one that like is like the icebreaker, right? Like Chopper somehow sensed it. That was Chopper's force sensitive now, I think.
He is. I think they named him a Jedi also this week. I think that's what happened.
But yeah, that was a special moment. I'm glad that it was short. I'm glad that you didn't get the whole embrace and everything like that. I think it was much more special to just cut it on their, have it pan in on themselves and then cut away. So the last bit before we get into our rankings and whatnot is Thrawn above Dathomir. You've got all the caskets, right? The implication is that they're going to repopulate Dathomir with deceased night sisters, night witches. Why? Why would they do that?
I think the better question is why not? Why wouldn't they? I mean, they want to repopulate their home world.
Yes, but why? Other than getting home, and maybe that was the only reasoning. Is that Thrawn's only reasoning for helping? Was just to get home, or is there something else?
I don't think there's any. I'm not sure there's anything there for Thrawn specifically. In my mind, I think the Night Sister, because it goes back to the like before they left Peridia, like it was for the Empire, and Morgan was for Dathomir. Like I think that speaks to the motives of both sides very, very well for the Great Mothers. Also, they are doing like it's an alliance due to necessity, not because they truly needed each other, but they did. They needed each other to get out. But once they're out, they're looking for a deeper power on Dathomir.
Right. So I guess the follow-up question to that would be is where are they during the rise of the First Order? Because presumably there would be some sort of alliance there for assistance.
It was fragile to begin with. It probably broke once they got home.
Yeah, that's fair.
That would be my. Now, granted, what are they doing during all of that? Well, it's Dathomir.
Mm-hmm.
Currently uninhabited. Unless somebody figures out that it's inhabited, the rest of the galaxy believes it's uninhabited, so they may be still building for other stuff, which would be cool. If Rey picks up, I know they're doing like the sequel to the sequel trilogy. If Rey picks up Jedi Academy stuff and they have a mission to Dathomir because they find out that there's Night Sisters there again, I'd be on board with that.
That'd be cool.
I could do that. Like I could legitimately get behind that idea.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, in fact, I hope that's what they are doing, but I don't know. And I haven't listened to anybody on anything yet. So if somebody threw that out there already, great. If they threw out what you said, like, what are they doing? What is the alliance? I don't know. I don't think there is an alliance. Once they get home, they're home, They might give Thrawn his fortune teller, like, this is what's going to happen, and see you later. Like, thanks for delivering us to Dathomir.
Yeah, he's got to go get his ship fixed at some point, I suppose. But yeah, and then I said we're going to get into ratings, but of course we're not going to do that because we got to talk about the last scene. Baylan standing on the outstretched arm of a statue of the father.
The father, yeah.
Flanked by the son and a destroyed version of the daughter, pointing to a pulsating mountaintop.
Yeah, pretty sweet.
I will say I missed that the first time. what he was actually looking at.
You think the mother's there?
It's weird because why would that be flickering?
Maybe that's just the energy. I don't know.
Perhaps.
I don't know how to describe it. Just other than that's the Force like speaking out to him. Like that's what he's sensing.
It's Mount Doom.
Kind of like
it's basically Mount Doom is what it is. It's the Star Wars equivalent of Mount Doom. It's where the Force is at. I bet it's where the Force is originating from.
Throw your ring in,
And just,
see what comes out. No,
that's why he has a giant kyber crystal on his belt. He's just gonna drop that into the
that's the
cast it
key.
into the fire.
That's the key to everything on Peridia. His giant kyber crystal key.
The precious
Yeah, I mean, when he was standing up there, I'm like, oh my God, this is real. Oh my God, Sean might be right. Oh my God, I'm going to hear about how Sean was right.
Basically, if you just say it's the ones for like ever on every theory,
Yeah.
eventually it's gonna hit.
Right. So, I do. I mean, it does definitely back up the fact we could get the mother. I already said earlier this season in our podcast that I felt like Ahsoka really is the daughter at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling that the reason why Baylan told her in episode 7 that she could not destroy him was because he understands what she is, especially after he realized that she was not dead, which means there's a reason why she was saved. So I feel like Baylan might be a version of the son, even though he was staying on the father's hand. But I think he might be the version of the son because I feel like the reason why Anakin is the way he is currently is because he might be taking the role of the father, which is because he is the balance. Like, he technically turned into the balance now.
So, the thing I have against the idea that Baylan is the son is that he is not inherently dark side. Like he does not have that, or at least we haven't seen it, right? He's not dark side. Yes, he's not good. He's not nice. But
He's a meanie.
he is not emblematic of what the son is meant to represent. Yeah. And for all the discussion around the daughter, the father, and the son, they, in a way, they are beings, right? It's not so much a role. I understand that.
And we do get the Morai again for Ahsoka, just to,
which was awesome.
Yeah.
I had to try and explain that to Kara. That was a difficult. I did not do a good job of explaining what the bird represented there.
It's just
so there's a 3-episode arc in Clone Wars, and no, that didn't work. But I do realize that in the Clone Wars arc, the father was basically telling Anakin that he had to stay to keep the son and the daughter in line. So in that respect, I guess it is a role, but I think had Anakin done that, he would not have become immortal in the way that those beings were. Obviously they are dead now, but so that's my hesitancy in saying Baylan's the son. He feels, I'm not gonna say he is the father, but
he feels more father.
He feels more balanced. Yes, because.
But then you'd have to find the son somewhere. So, which could be Sabine, I suppose.
No, absolutely not. She's not dark enough. Now, I've heard people talk about Shin.
Know?
I've heard people throw out Shin. I've heard people throw out Anakin because of the giant scar down the right side. They're like, oh, Anakin has a scar. Oh, you know who else has a scar? Ben has a giant scar on his face eventually. Not right away, but he has a scar eventually. I think it's just like a red herring. I would be surprised if a innocuous scrape down the entire right side of his face is actually meaningful, but crazier things have happened. I think with Baylan having an orange saber.
I mean, I just go back to, hey, before every episode, Sabine's helmet is red. Just saying.
And Marok was blue. So, I mean, let's move past that. Marok was just a puff of smoke, and Sabine reeked of Jedi, apparently. So, anyways, the fact that Baylan's saber.
Don't dismiss my theories.
I have dismissed it. Unless something crazy happens, there ain't no way Sabine is going to tap into a well of dark side energy and become that corrupted. But you know what? If they want to tell that story, I'm here for it. I think Baylan's saber says more about. I think the orange being the blend of like obviously the red with dark side, and the yellow from like a Temple Guardian perspective. But no, I don't see Baylan being the son. I don't see him being the father. I think he is. I don't know if he's a tool. I mean, he is a tool, being used by not as a
I understand what
character,
you're saying.
not as a character. Sorry, but like his role, right, is to unlock something, and I don't know what waking the mother would do, for him. Like I don't know what he gets out of that, because she's not going to be beholden to him. He's just going to get annihilated. So he doesn't get to see the end of that.
Right.
So I think that there maybe it's it's the setup for the like the origin story, like the Jedi origin story, that movie that's supposed to be coming out. I think there's something that's going to be in that will kind of describe what it is that he's trying to get to, and then they're going to use the movies and the shows to obviously kind of like bring everything together, kind of like Marvel's doing. But yeah, so but that whole scene with him was just a oh my god moment.
So good.
And who knows
So
what Shin
good.
and who knows what Shin's doing. I don't know what she's going to do. I guess she's going to rally the bandits into some sort of tribe. So
Well, they're gonna be the Knights of Ren. That's what they're gonna be. The Knights of Ren.
the Knights of Shin Hati.
No, they're not. They're not the Knights of Ren.
So what would you grade?
I don't know what she's doing.
What's that? Oh yeah, you don't know what she's doing.
I don't know what she's doing.
No.
No clue.
So what grade would you give the season series? For right now, we'll call it a series because we don't have season 2 confirmed. So what would you give the series finale grade wise?
8.5.
Okay.
I'll give it 8.5. What about you?
Yeah, I'm at an 8. I again, as series finales go, it really didn't close anything.
Yeah, like I said earlier in the show, I just have accepted that we needed launching points for the next installment, whether it be a season or a movie.
Okay, and that's fine, but you cannot write standalone shows to be jumping off points for movies that don't exist. Because now, if for some reason those projects get canceled, right, and there is no season 2 for some reason, then that story, none of those stories get told. None of them get finished, and you just like, it's like setting up a movie for a sequel that never comes, aka Solo, right? Like that was set up to have a second part, and then they never made it, and so like there's some sort of closure to that story, but like there's a whole host of other things that's like we'll never find out because there's not going to be a Solo 2. Maybe, hopefully there is. Make Solo 2. And if they do that here with this show or with Acolyte or with any of the shows that are coming out where they're using it solely to like springboard to the movie, oh boy. I really hope that's not what they're doing, because
You gotta have hope, Sean. Hope. What is it that you delivered to us? Hope.
Rebellions are built on hope. Okay, so I'm going to rebel against the concept of using a television show to springboard you to a movie that's 3 years away. So yeah, you get an 8 from me. You get no more. That's all you get, because it, as you said at the start, it happened. The finale was a thing. It just wasn't what I was hoping for. So 8. Let's see what we got here. All right, 8,800 reviews or ratings, rankings, whatever. IMDb's got it at an 8 out of 10. Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to go through and read a bunch of the user reviews, other than our friend Posey Fan, because where is this person?
We're committed to them.
There it is. There it is.
Them.
6
We're
out
committed
of
to them.
6 out of 10 for Posey Fan. Another.
Oh yeah, he was gonna. They were gonna be upset.
Well, but that's the thing. Like threat, and I don't know how they rated 7. Let me go see 7 real quick because I know we didn't cover that. So episode 7 said episode 8 gave it a 7 out of 10. Episode 8 will have a lot to cover. So for
And it was too short.
and so for part 8 they gave it a 6 out of 10. Another Disney Plus series fails to stick the landing due to poor writing and low tension. So, and the preface is that they enjoyed the show for the most part. But episodes 1 through 7 were pretty okay. So yeah. Anyways, there's a whole host of things, but yeah, it's funny because they were like up here for the whole series, pretty much. 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, and then they also believe that the finale came up short. So, and I'm just kind of scrolling through it. Yeah, 5 out of 10, 4 out of 10. There aren't a high number of high rated. So 8 out of 10, tad disappointing. 8 out of 10 should have done more.
Could have done more.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it could have done more.
1 out of 10.
I told you, I would have taken another 20 minutes to flesh out whatever the hell Baylan was doing, or whatever. Shin is just a lost cause at this point. I don't even know.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, and let's pivot into talking about the series as a whole. They have spent so much time building those two characters, and if they just cast them aside for God knows what, I have no idea. I mean, nothing's going to happen, right? They can do whatever they want, that they're their characters, but it will feel like such a disservice to both actors, especially Ray Stevenson, which I realize he won't be able to complete his arc, but if they do not complete their stories, it will just be a shame. And yeah, I mean, right now that's where we're at, is we don't know if we're going to get the completion of these stories, and that is just something that is unfortunate.
I'm still happy with the show. It's hard not to be happy with the overall show still.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many good things that happened because of it, and so many things that were introduced in live action that we would have never gotten if it wasn't what happened. So I'm okay with where we're like, I called it before, like Baylan was going to be left on a cliffhanger. Did I think we were going to only get him for 30 seconds this episode? No. With no lines? No. Didn't think that was what was going to happen. But I knew we were not going to get the end of his arc.
Sure.
We discussed that, and we were like, it's not going to end, and that's sad because of Ray and everything else. So they're going to have to recast or figure something out.
Mm-hmm.
I did not see Shin ending up where she did. I'm not super excited about that. Can't say that left me excited. But the Baylan thing, like I said, I wish we had 20 more minutes to figure out what he was thinking in his head, and maybe explore that some. The bandits could have killed Shin at this point. I would have been okay with that too. Just being the fact that like she didn't do anything the entire episode. She's got the the Conan or
yeah, that's pretty much what it is. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm still happy with the rest of it. Was good. Like I didn't have a problem with the rest of it. I don't know.
Now, and we haven't posted this yet because we haven't posted the stuff from the con yet, but I'm not going to spoil where you had Ahsoka at in your rankings list so that people, can listen to that and enjoy our discussion. But I will say, where you have it in your list, would it still be there after? Because we did our rankings before episode 8 came out. Would it still be in the spot that you had it?
I may have to move it.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say don't spoil the placement, but
mostly based on the fact I won't, but like mostly based on the fact that we didn't get the conclusion that I would have necessarily needed for it to stay where it was currently at. Because like agreeing with your point, like we don't know if other things are going to happen and nothing's greenlit for next season. Already had hoped we were going to get another season of this. Like whether that happened after the movie, before the movie, it doesn't matter to me. I hope we get more. Um, but it didn't conclude enough to stay in its current ranking for me.
Sure. Yeah, and, talking about that briefly, yeah, mine would be in the same spot, I think, because of where I had ranked it. So, yeah, and I don't want my initial sort of gripe to come across as I didn't enjoy the show. I did enjoy the show. I felt like there was a good amount of tension most episodes. We didn't really know what was going to happen, save for Thrawn having to get away, which again we've talked about ad nauseum. But you don't know who has. Other than that, you don't know who's going to make it, who's not going to make it. Every fight felt like this could happen, assuming it wasn't ruined by the trailers. But when Ahsoka fell off the ledge, like I had no idea. I was like, oh wait, hold on. Are they actually gonna? I mean,
Yeah.
the likelihood of them actually killing her off
Outside
there
of
was
plot armor,
right, but
outside of plot armor being the title character.
yeah. But I guess my point is
Ahsoka season 2, Sabine
featuring Sabine. Well, I mean, they've done that with the Mandalorian, where the Mandalorian is not the main focus of the season, which is again,
I don't know what you're talking about.
totally fine. But no, I for all the hype that we got going into the season and stuff like that, I will say that it definitely hit my expectations. It exceeded it in a number of the character aspects. Again, I didn't know what to expect with Baylan and Shin, and they've turned into some top notch characters. Baylan's one of my, I've significantly enjoyed his development to this point. Hu Yang was an absolute gem all season. Amon as Ezra was excellent. I felt like he nailed the physical embodiment of Ezra, like even with like the, you'll take us as prisoners, right? Like, because that's in episode 7. That's exactly something that Ezra would say from Rebels, right? Or in Rebels. Obviously, he's from Rebels. And so I feel like I had some issues initially with Sabine's character and her motivation. It kind of made sense at the end, so I can understand, again, the process. Hera, I'm trying to figure out what her role was. Like, what was the importance for her in this series, and maybe it'll be fleshed out later on. Other than introducing Jason, and maybe trying to get across to the New Republic
contact. I think that's really what it comes down to. I mean, she was the voice that was saying there's still danger here, like, which they badly need to hear because it's clearly a problem. But
so
they are just ignorant.
My question to that my follow-up question to that would be, if that wasn't part of this story, would it have detracted at all from what we actually got? And I don't know that there was any sort of.
I think they're just trying to add more. Yeah, I think they're just trying to add more New Republic stuff in so we get more ineptitude. Like we need to understand that they were that bad.
It's fair.
Because everyone keeps asking the same question. How did they let the First Order just happen? Because they're idiots. They're a bunch of idiots. And you need to understand what kind of idiots you're dealing with in order to get to the conclusion that you're in.
Right.
Obviously, Leia was not exactly part of the New Republic when she was head of the Resistance.
Oh, yeah, no. Mm-mm.
So something had to happen there where she was just like, you guys are truly idiots. Like, just a bunch of bureaucrats. You think you're in your ivory tower. Everything's good. Guess what?
Mm-hmm.
Bad stuff's out there. So, I think they're just continuously just hammering it home that they're just a bunch of idiots.
Yeah, and that's fair. I mean, if that's the game plan, I mean, that yeah, mission's successful in that regard. I mean, they are
Done.
horribly. Yeah, I mean, between that and Mando season 3 with Carson talking with Tim Meadows' character, right? Among a host of other things, of course, with the reintegration process.
Yeah.
So, but and again, that's not to say that I didn't enjoy having Hera in the show, getting Chopper and everybody like that. So there were a lot of positives, a lot more positives than negative for sure. Thrawn, I thought Lars did a really good job portraying him. Again, some of the writing direction with how he handled certain things kind of questionable, but his delivery of everything had no problem with. And I thought his look was really good. Was really solid. Reintroducing the Great Mothers, the Night Sisters. Whoa,
Yeah.
didn't expect that. Getting World
So
Between
great.
Worlds. Whoa, didn't expect that. Getting Anakin and like a lot of things that were highly unsuspected. So even with kind of the letdown, I say letdown loosely. The lackluster finale. I'm still probably going to give this like an 8.7 or an 8.8 for a series as a whole.
I'm good with it. I'm good with an 8.5 still. I'm good. I think we got a lot of good things this season, and like I said, I look forward to more. Hopefully, we get a lot more, but right now it's just up in the air of what we're gonna get, if anything. So
Yeah, and
I just hope movies get made again. I hope it happens. Like I just continuously hope movies get made.
well with the one strike ending with the writers. I mean, they can, if nothing else, start writing those stories. And obviously, hopefully, the actors get. We say this. We've been saying this off and on over the last number of episodes, but really hoping that the actors get what they need, what they're after,
Right.
sooner rather than later, so that way we can selfishly get some
More Star Wars.
more of the content that we love. So, and of course, the actors and can
Yeah.
get
Y'all
their
got any more of that Ahsoka in there? You got any more?
get the security, the job security and stuff that they need. So, anything else to discuss regarding the series or episode 8?
I think I'm good. I think I'm satisfied.
Always kept me satisfied and smiling.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Oh, I know that's where you're at. So as we get ready to close out this episode, we want to thank you all for listening. Be sure to check the show notes for links to our social media channels. If you're new and or if you enjoy listening to the content, do consider sharing or subscribing, following the show. We really appreciate it, and consider leaving a review. But for now, we're going to get back to our training here on Peridia. We've got a little bit of stuff we got to take care of. So for Jedi John, I'm Obi Sean, and until next time.
May the Force be with you.